Love without sacrifice. The hardest boundary I ever set wasn't with another person. It was with the version of myself who believed love was measured by how much of me I was willing to lose. The woman who mistook self sacrifice for devotion. The woman who poured from an empty cup and called it kindness. The woman who abandoned herself to make everyone else feel at home. Choosing myself felt unfamiliar. Protecting my peace felt selfish. Honoring my needs felt like betrayal to those who had grown accustomed to unlimited access to my heart, my time, and my energy. But what felt like betrayal wasn't betrayal at all. It was the sound of chains breaking. It was old beliefs falling from my shoulders. Healing felt like betrayal because somewhere along the way I was taught that my worth was tied to my suffering. That love required exhaustion. That loyalty required silence. That goodness required self abandonment. My boundaries aren't walls, they are bridges, a sacred path leading me back to the parts of myself I left behind while trying to save everyone else. Welcome to Breaking the Curse. This season is about awareness. The moment you realize that healing is no longer optional. We'll talk about generational cycles, boundaries, spirituality beyond religion, and the discipline it takes to choose yourself daily. This is where the work begins. Before we begin, take a deep breath. Not the shallow one you used to survive, the deep one that reminds your body you are still here. This space wasn't created for perfection, it was created for truth, for unlearning, for the courage it takes to choose yourself after generations of silence. Here, healing is not rushed, grief is not hidden, softness is not weakness. You are allowed to arrive as you are, unfinished, becoming, and human. This moment is yours. And this is Breaking the Curse. And of course, I'm your host, Susie. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever felt guilty for choosing yourself? I know I have. When I first started this self love journey and I printed out those self love affirmations and had them on my bathroom mirror, my refrigerator, and my closet door, and I started speaking them over myself, there were times I would cry, you know? And in this episode, we explore why setting boundaries can feel like betrayal. It can feel like betrayal in the beginning because you've spent years prioritizing everyone else's needs above your own. Actually, I shouldn't say you've spent years, because I don't know if y'all can relate to this, but I spent years prioritizing everyone else's needs above my own. And now, with children, to a certain extent, yes, you do have to prioritize their needs over your own, but you also deserve priority as well, you know? Because yes, as children, we need that attention, that love, that nurturing, that guidance, right? To become healthy adults. So, but you also have to realize that you deserve priority as well. So you need to make time for yourself after you take care of your children, and you should have a spouse or a partner who understands that when you put yourself first above him, right, that he gets the best of you, that his life is blessed or gifted. So in this episode, we're going to unpack the emotional discomfort that comes with saying no, reclaiming your time, protecting your energy, and honoring your values. Before we start unpacking, I want to reflect on the last line of that poem that I read, where I said, healing often feels like betrayal because you've been conditioned to believe your worth is tied to your sacrifice. And again, I don't know about you, but Christianity taught me that God loved the world so much that he gave his only son as a sacrifice, right? Right there, it's teaching us that we have to give up to get. And that's simply not true. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. You don't have to sacrifice your children. And this is a lot of the reasons why I left Christianity, because things just didn't add up. They didn't align with my spirit. Cuz no, God, yes, God loves me. The highest energy, which I know as God, loves me and will never require me to sacrifice anything, right? I don't have to sacrifice anything. I just have to be me, because I am love at the core, right? And so for much of my life, I believe love meant availability. I believe being a good person meant always showing up, always helping, always giving, always understanding. I was conditioned to believe that my sacrifice was tied to my worth. Conditioned to believe that oversharing and overextending myself was a requirement to receive love from others. And that I was supposed to be overly responsible for the happiness of others, right? I thought strength meant carrying everything, So I was always available for people to just dump their shit onto me, and not realizing that, now in my life it's like, hey, do I even have the capacity for this conversation? You know, I don't mind if people vent, but I have to ask myself, and a lot of times I won't even answer the phone, and it's not because, I don't care, but I don't have the capacity today. Especially, because you get to know the people who only call you just to vent, right? Just because they know that you'll listen. And it's just like, I don't have the capacity today. So, no, I'm not even going to answer that phone call, you know? Um, the problem with me thinking that I had to carry everyone's stuff, including mine, was that I was carrying things that were never mine to hold, you know? Getting into relationships where you think you can save a man, that's his responsibility. That's his responsibility. You can't save him. He got to save himself. But when you have this programming where you believe that someone is going to save you outside of yourself, you look for other people to be your Jesus. But you are your Jesus. You have the power to heal on your own. We are some amazing creatures. We really and truly are. And so many people place their trust, their happiness, and make it somebody else's responsibility for them to heal, right? Now, I was carrying other people's expectations, not truly being myself because this is what somebody else expected me to be. Carrying other people's emotions. Again, when you allow people to use you as your dumping station, you hold their emotions. Other people's responsibility. That's the I need to do everything because if I don't do it myself, it ain't gonna get done. You know, other people's emergencies. And somewhere along the way, I lost myself beneath the weight of it all. And maybe you can relate to this, you know? That's why, like now I'm like, I'll never have to lose myself in another person. I'll never have to lose myself in another person. And I lost myself because I was trying to do all this stuff, right? I was trying to be everything, to everybody. I was oversharing, overextending, overly responsible. If you ever struggled with people pleasing, overextending yourself, or feeling responsible for everyone else's happiness, this conversation is for you. Healing often begins when we stop abandoning ourselves to make others comfortable. That's when the healing really begins, because it's like you are honoring your no, right? To other people, because your no to others is a yes to you. That's a sacred yes to you, right? And this conversation is for you if your days feel crowded with obligations but empty of fulfillment, right? Because maybe you're exhausted from constantly responding to everyone else's needs while neglecting your own. Ooh, right? You constantly pick up that phone call instead of letting it go to voicemail, instead of ignoring it. Maybe you've become so accustomed to overextending yourself that resting feels uncomfortable, right? You ever see those people that are just go 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 go? Will call you lazy because you like to rest. No, rest is luxury. Rest is a way to replenish your energy from giving, right? Because, I mean, yeah, we're going to give in this world, right? Especially if we work outside of our home, you're going to give. And when you give in energy. You're giving your energy. So if you don't take time to rest, right? And a lot of times people can't rest, and rest feels uncomfortable because when you rest, your thoughts get to going, right? And yeah, if there are thoughts that you don't want to think, it's uncomfortable. That's why a lot of people like to stay busy, right? But resting is often where the boundaries begin, right? It's not with confidence, it's not with certainty, it's with exhaustion. And boundaries aren't walls designed to keep people out. Boundaries are instructions that teach us how to love ourselves without abandoning ourselves. Boundaries are instructions that teach others how to love us without harming us, right? Because when you give, people take advantage of that. Because they know that they can always call you and count on you because you are going to give it, right? Boundaries are instructions that teach others how to love and respect us. Boundaries are instructions that teach us how to love and respect ourselves in every area of our life. They help us reclaim ownership of our time, energy, attention, finances, and emotional well being. That's why a lot of people think that boundaries are for other people, but boundaries are really for yourself, right? Because you have been abandoning yourself for love, and the boundaries are to teach you how to love and respect yourself. And when you start loving and respecting yourself, guess what happens? It teaches other people how to love you. And if other people can't adjust to that, that's not your problem. That's not your problem. There is a song. I love Tony Jones. I've talked about her on a previous podcast, but she has a song that's called "No Is Bay," right? And no is really a boundary, right? And it says, she say, I create adult ass relationships with no. I help enroll others into that relationship. I will appreciate others. Wait a minute. I will appreciate others, and will say no in truth when I really want to please. Right? Oh, I will appreciate others, important ask of me, and will say no in truth when I really want to please. Right? Because we do. We want to please our loved ones, right? But at some point, we get exhausted. And some of us are still saying yes when we really want to say no. Right? And it is okay to say no, right? And if they don't like it, it's none of my business. It's none of my business. And I think that's the hardest part on our journey, right? Is realizing that not everyone will celebrate your healing. And sometimes those people will be the people you love the most. Your family members, maybe it's a partner who just does not want to grow with you, right? Who thinks healing is a sham, right? And that's because some people only knew the version of you that overextended yourself. Some people only knew the version of you that never complained. Some people only knew the version of you that always said yes. And when that version slowly begins to disappear because you start saying no, they are going to start saying, "Oh, you changing. Oh, you think you better than me." And they're right. Right? Because the only constant is change. That is the only constant. And because you're changing, it reflects back to them what they're not willing to do. And that is upsetting to some people. Right? They're right. You are changing. You are becoming someone who understands that self love requires limits. I love myself and I love you too. But sometimes, baby, I got to say no to you to say yes to myself. And you got to be okay with that. And the people who love you will understand that. They will understand that, right? A boundary isn't punishment, it's a declaration that says, I matter too. You want me to give all of myself to you and keep none for myself. That's selfish. My boundary says my peace is valuable. It says I can love you and still say no. Oh, that's such a beautiful thing because I can love you and not always feel the need to please you because I'm making myself, my peace, and my mental health my priority. But then it comes the conversation that when people when you have people like that in your life, it's because they're stuck and they're not healing. Because healthy people may need time to adjust, but eventually they respect your limits, right? And I think one of the greatest lessons I learned on my healing journey is that boundaries reveal relationships, right? Because unhealthy people often take your boundaries personally because they benefited from your lack of them. And this is where many people get stuck, right? This is when that feeling of betrayal comes up. And because they get stuck there, right? They're like at that fence, right? Do I go left or do I go right? Right? Because they mistake someone else's disappointment for evidence. They mistake someone else's disappointment, excuse me, for evidence they've done something wrong. And that's where that feeling of betrayal comes from, right? I'm betraying this person because yes, we love them, right? We don't want to betray them. And because when people get upset, we're like, oh my God, they're going to abandon me. They're going to leave me. They're not going to like me anymore, right? And people get stuck there because they care more about what other people think about them. They care more about the love of someone from the outside than on the inside. That they give up on their healing because they don't want to lose those people. But you have to be willing to lose others to gain yourself. Otherwise, you're going to lose yourself to gain other people, right? You're going to lose yourself in the love of other people because someone else's discomfort does not automatically mean you're being harmful, right? That's a trigger for them to go and heal. because it's a discomfort within them. It's not a discomfort within you. It's their discomfort. So they got to figure out where that discomfort is coming from. Just like I said earlier, healthy people need time to adjust, right? Because they'll see that discomfort as something that they have to go work in within themselves. Because why am I getting upset that you said no? Right? When I know that when you pour into yourself, I get the best of you. And sometimes you got to be okay that you're no longer available for behaviors that hurt you. You got to be okay with that. Because when you start loving yourself, you're like, I don't got to deal with this. I don't have to put up with this. Because I love myself too much. I'm no longer hurting myself, so why would I let somebody else hurt me? So why do boundaries feel like betrayal? And why do they feel incredibly uncomfortable when we first begin setting them? And I believe it's because boundaries often feel like betrayal because we've spent so much of our lives betraying ourselves, right? We don't know what it is. Because boundaries are going to change relationships. It's going to change the relationship you have with yourself. It's going to change the relationship you have with your time and the relationship you have with people who benefited from your lack of limits. And when you spent years saying yes, your no can feel like betrayal. When you spent years putting yourself last, prioritizing yourself can feel selfish. When you've spent years carrying everyone's burdens, putting one down can feel irresponsible. But the feeling of guilt doesn't mean you're guilty. It simply means you're doing something unfamiliar to you. Because we've become so accustomed to self abandonment that self respect feels unfamiliar. And the unfamiliar is a very uncomfortable place to be because it challenges our beliefs and our conditioning. Because many of us were conditioned to believe our worth was tied to what we could give, tolerate, sacrifice, or endure. We learned that being loving meant always being available. Being kind meant never disappointing anyone. Being a good person meant putting ourselves last. So when we began setting those boundaries, our nervous system often interprets it as danger. Why? Because boundaries challenge old survival strategies. And one of the first places boundaries begin is with awareness. Now that we've unpacked the discomfort that comes with saying no, let's examine your daily routine and reclaim your time. Where is your time going? What consumes your attention? What leaves you feeling depleted? Maybe, again, it's endless scrolling on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Maybe it's checking your phone every few minutes. Maybe it's saying yes to commitments you don't actually want. Maybe it's spending hours responding to emails while neglecting your own dreams. Many of us complain about not having enough time, but we all get 24 hours in each day. And the truth is, our time leaks away through unconscious habits. And healing requires honesty, right? Because, I've said before, healing requires awareness. But awareness of self is being honest with yourself, right? Track your time, observe your patterns, pay attention to where your energy is being invested. Not with judgment, not beating yourself up, but with curiosity. because awareness creates choice, right? When we're aware of it, we can say, oh no, I don't want to give my time to that. Yes, I want to give my time to this, right? We all have choices. And once you know where your energy is going, you can decide where it belongs. You can ask yourself, am I spending my time in alignment with what I say matters most? Because again, I'll say it again, every yes to someone else is a no to yourself. Every hour spent on one thing is an hour unavailable for someone else. Boundaries help us choose intentionally. And then there's energy, right? Because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And this is a lesson many of us have learned the hard way, right? We're creating endless to-do lists. I know I was a planner. Now I still do my 6 month goal thing, right? The things that I want to accomplish within 6 months. So I'll do them in let me look at my phone. 6 month goals. Let's see here what I got. So I'll do 6 month goals. So I do them from June to December, and then I break them down like for every 3 months, right? So June to August, this is what I want to accomplish, and no, wait a minute, that's wrong. June to August, no, no, no. I should do June to July, July to August. No, that's not right. It's every 3 months. So I would do June to August, and then June, July, August. Yeah. So then I would do September to December, right? And I just break it down. Like these are the things that I want to accomplish over this 3 month span. But I used to be a planner, like literally having itineraries and to do lists, right? And that's not how you should live life. That is not how you should live life, right? Um, because I was expecting myself to, perform at maximum capacity every day, right? And then you get frustrated when you can't keep up, right? And another lesson I learned on my journey is that boundaries are not just about time, they're also about energy, right? Because there were seasons of my life when I expected myself to function as if I had unlimited emotional, mental, and physical capacity. And I think a lot of us do that. As a flight attendant, I say that all the time. Like, I need my 3 days off. So that's 1,000 for me, right? In my bid, when I bid, I need at least 72 hours between each trip. Now I'm going to change the way I do things beginning in September because I'm trying to do a few things and make a few changes in my life. So I'll go down to 48 hours between trips, but I need at least one day to decompress because I have given so much of myself over that 4 day period or over that 3 day period that I worked that I need at least one whole day to decompress. To just do absolutely nothing, whether that's just laying around, watching TV, sleeping. I just need that one day to myself, right? Because I do not have unlimited emotional, mental, and physical capacity. And how some of these flight attendants go one day between their trips, I will never know. Sometimes I do it, but not all the time. Like this month, I ended up picking up July 2nd through 4th, and that's going to have me off one day in between trips. But then that second trip of July, I have 3 days off. So I'll never understand how they do it because you need to be at your best mental health doing this in this career, and how you go one day between each trip. I will never understand it, right? Right? I don't. And I thought I could do everything. I thought I should do everything. But healing taught me that honoring my limitations is not weakness, it's wisdom, right? Some days my energy allows me to conquer mountains. And other days, my energy only allows me to survive, right? So that just might be me in the bed, laying on the couch watching TV. Like yesterday, I was like, I don't feel like going nowhere. I don't feel like doing nothing, and I didn't do nothing. I did absolutely nothing, but lay on that couch and watch TV. And both days are equally important, right? Whether you are using your energy to conquer mountains or just to survive, both days are equally important and they deserve compassion. You don't deserve to beat up on yourself, calling yourself lazy, because that's what people call you, right? And knowing your limits allows you to work with yourself instead of against yourself. It allows you to silence that inner critic faster, right? And once you get to a certain point, point in your journey, that inner critic just be silent because you know it's a liar, right? And this, knowing your limits, working with yourself instead of against yourself, creates sustainability. The same principle applies to finances. Many people think boundaries only apply to relationships, but boundaries also exist in our spending. And I always say that every relationship, the mental, the emotional, those are relationships that we have with ourselves, right? Our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health, our physical health, relational health, and financial health. Those are relationships that we have with ourselves, right? And we should also create boundaries in our spending. Every dollar is an expression of our values. Every purchase is a vote for what matters. And when we align our spending with our priorities, we create greater peace and intention. Boundaries help us stop living reactively and start living deliberately. And the beautiful thing about boundaries is that they simplify life. Boundaries help us make intentional choices. Boundaries are not about restriction, they're about freedom. Because when you don't have things hanging over you, you are in a good space mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally, and financially. Right? Because when our spending aligns with our priorities, we create greater peace and clarity. When it doesn't, we often feel stressed, overwhelmed, and disconnected from our goals. And finally, but most importantly, let's discuss honoring our values. So I'm going to ask you a question. What matters to you? Not what matters to your family, not what matters to society, not what matters to strangers on the internet. What matters to you? What are your values? What are your goals? What kind of life are you trying to create? Boundaries become much easier when your priorities are clear. When you know what matters most to you. You stop treating everything as equally important and you focus on the things that matter the most. You understand that every yes requires a no somewhere else. If your goal is healing, then protecting your peace becomes essential. If your goal is writing a book, then creating uninterrupted creative time becomes essential. If your goal is improving your health, then rest, movement, and nourishment become essential. Again, the boundary isn't punishment. It's not restriction. It is protection. It's protecting what matters most to you. And when you know your limits, you stop overcommitting. You start saying no and being okay with it. Like, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. When you know your priorities, you stop chasing distractions. When you know your energy, you stop expecting the impossible from yourself. And when you know your values, you stop spending your resources on things that don't matter. And that is where life begins to feel simpler, more peaceful, more purposeful. So if boundaries feel uncomfortable right now, that's okay. You're not failing, you're learning. You are simply creating a life that reflects your values instead of everyone else's expectations. And that is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. Now, I want you to take a deep breath. Ask yourself, where's my time going? Where's my energy going? Where is my money going? And do those things reflect what matters most to me? Now, repeat after me. My time is valuable. My energy is valuable. My peace is valuable. I am allowed to prioritize what matters most. I release the need to do everything. I honor my limitations without shame. I create boundaries that support my growth. I choose alignment over overwhelm. I choose intention over distraction. I choose myself. I honor my time without guilt. I am allowed to say no without explaining myself. My boundaries are an expression of self love. I release the belief that my worth is tied to my sacrifice. I can be compassionate without abandoning myself. My peace is worth protecting. I trust myself to make choices that align with my values. Now exhale. Remember, every healthy boundary you set brings you closer to the life you deserve. Every healthy boundary is a declaration that your life has value. So protect it accordingly. Now I want you to take another deep breath. Relax your shoulders and notice what shifted. Notice what softened. You didn't come here to be fixed. You came here to be reminded that healing happens in the quiet moments when you choose yourself without needing permission. Carry what resonated, release what no longer fits, and trust that showing up was enough for today. Because every time you return to yourself, you are breaking the curse and the cycle loosens its grip. I just want to say thank you for joining me today. If this episode stirred something in you, take it as an invitation, not a burden. You don't have to heal all at once, but you do have to begin. And you can deepen this work with the workbook journal bundle located on my website. Each workbook journal was created to help you remain consistent on your healing journey.